Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, fugitive thieves stole 2 Andy Warhols, but had to leave 2 others behind because they couldn't fit in the getaway car.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. They would have fit fine if your golf clubs hadn't been in the trunk.
Oh, you think I'm just going to take my PXG Black Ops and just set them in somebody's garage? You really? You think so? No.
I said, why don't we use the SUV? And you said, no, we're not going to use the SUV.
No, I can use the SUV.
What happened?
Golf clubs are coming with me.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Steelers meet the Commanders. Kalen DeBoer engages Brian Kelly, and Lionel Messi could face the end of his season.
Get out.
But we begin today with last night's terrific game between Cincinnati and Baltimore. It went down to the wire with both teams scoring critical touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and the Bengals losing 35-34 because they missed a 2-point conversion try with 38 seconds to go. Wilbon, how should the Ravens and Bengals feel about this game and this result?
Well, the Bengals should feel angry because, they should have had another play. I mean, whether you call the hold on Gesicki, the tight end, it was a hold, or the blow to the face mask, the head of Joe Burrow, you call one of them, they're getting another play. They might not win the game, but they're getting another play and a chance to. So they should be angry about that, but angry at themselves for starting the season in such a blasé way that they lose a game to the no-good Patriots. So, I don't really feel all that bad for the Bengals. Baltimore, let's go straight to Lamar Jackson. Tony, Lamar Jackson is having one of those seasons where it just seems everything has come together. And he is helped, of course, by the addition of Derrick Henry, but he himself, he is so great. The timing, so athletically, it seems emotionally. I love it on these post games. He's so calm when he reflects and he talks about what just happened over the previous, 3.5 hours. The jump passes, the timing on those things goes back to like Fran Tarkenton. Lamar Jackson. Yeah. I know Joe Burrow's having a great season. He ain't Lamar Jackson, people. And so watching that unfold every game is a treat. And if they don't get to the Super Bowl now, then win. Win for Lamar Jackson. How does it happen?
So I don't know that we disagree, but I have a much different point of emphasis. Where this game leaves Cincinnati is very clear to me. It leaves them a day late and $1 short.
Wow.
They didn't get that penalty, right?
Right.
They didn't get, the penalty wasn't called. They have now played Baltimore twice. They've scored 72 points, Mike. 72 points, and they haven't won either game. They've lost both games by a total, I believe, of 4 points. They are wasting Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They're wasting them. All right? Burrow passed for 428 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks.
Great.
No picks. Chase caught 11 balls for, I think, 234 yards and 3 touchdowns. And they're being wasted because that defense stinks. That defense allowed 3 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter alone. I think this leaves Baltimore in an equal sort of place because their defense is terrible, too. You can have Derrick Henry and you can have Lamar Jackson all you want.
Defense.
You can be the best offense in the league, which they are. But you're not going to win in the playoffs with this defense.
Agreed.
They lost their first game at Kansas City, and they're going to lose again to Kansas City if the defense doesn't get better. I have one small note about going for 2, because you remember last week I disagreed with you. I said that
had to go for 2.
Tampa was right. Tampa was right in going for 1, right? Because I said that. I am fine with them going for 2 last night. Cincinnati approached that game differently. They were going on 4th down in the first quarter. They were going all the time. They came in to win that game decisively and as quickly as possible. So them going for 2 is okay with me. That's okay with me.
They had to win the game and they couldn't. And going for 2, don't let Tampa off the hook. Tampa should have gone for 2 and tried to win that game because they were on the road.
I disagreed with you
because they were on the road. You're not being consistent here.
I thought the 1 was okay there because they had just held them down defensively.
Yeah.
And last night going for 2 was fine. But these performances are wasted because the defense stinks.
They're great to watch. And I'm not even an offense guy. They're great to watch. The highest profile game, meanwhile, of the weekend, Tony, features the 6-2 Steelers and the 7-2 Commanders. Russell Wilson, 2-0, since taking over quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Mike Tomlin has won 7 straight coming off the bye week. Jaden Daniels has had a great rookie season, but now faces the Steelers' pass rush led by the potential defensive MVP T.J. Watt, game wrecker. Tone, do you favor the Steelers or the Commanders?
So, Mike, I look at this question with extreme prejudice. I have lived in Washington, D.C. for 45 years. I covered the 4 Super Bowls that Joe Gibbs coached in. 3 he won, 1 he lost. They were very nearly a dynasty. But in the last 20 to 25 years, Washington hasn't played a meaningful game in October, let alone November. They haven't won more than 10 games in a season since 1991, the bandwagon year. So you have to forgive me if I am informed by history to think that Pittsburgh is going to win. And you have to forgive me if I'm conditioned by history to think that Washington is going to gag here. Now, if they beat Pittsburgh, and then if they go to Philadelphia and they beat the Eagles, then I'm going to say the new era has arrived. Then I'm going to say all the bad stuff is gone and basically overnight, because they have good ownership now. They have good management now. They don't go out and chase washed-up stars with big names now. They got a potentially great quarterback now. So if you just move to Washington, you'd look at this game and say, well, of course Washington can win. But, Mike, I got too much scar tissue to go there right now.
Let's see. I've been around for 44 of those 45 years you just referred to and sat shoulder to shoulder with you through all those Joe Gibbs championship games and near championship games and contending games. But, Tony, it's so different. I've washed that away. I've separated myself. I've compartmentalized. That was then. I mean, this kid, Jaden Daniels, what he's doing, Tony, and the command he has of that team, and he and Terry McLaurin, those guys have a special thing going on. So I might favor the Steelers coming off the bye because of Tomlin, right? That's the only slight advantage I'm going to award anybody is Mike Tomlin in these games, in this situation. Yeah. And he's got a veteran quarterback out there who's done this. I mean, I'm talking like that, the Steelers.
Mike, I'm going to give you a better Tomlin stat than even the 7-0.
Oh, against rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, since 1950, he's got the 3rd highest percentage of wins against rookie quarterbacks. He's 25-6.
Hard to go against
rookies.
Hard to go against that.
We turn now to college football in the glamour game of the week, number 11 Alabama at number 15 LSU. And this is, in essence, the first playoff game of the season because the loser is probably out of the 12-team playoff. So, Wilbon, will the loss tomorrow be harder on Alabama coach Kalen DeBoer or on LSU coach Brian Kelly?
DeBoer. DeBoer. I'm not waiting around. I'm not hemming and hawing over this one. Because DeBoer is trying to do that thing that we know no one should want to do, and it's followed not just the legend, but maybe the GOAT. Probably the GOAT.
Yep.
You don't want to follow that guy directly. You and I have talked about this for decades with various people, following John Wooden. You just don't want to do it. You want to be the next person, but DeBoer is this person. LSU and Brian Kelly, okay, fine. There's a lot of pressure on Brian Kelly, but I don't even remember. Everybody wins a national championship as a coach at LSU. They're out 2 years later, and I don't even know who they were.
That's right.
I don't remember who they were. Ed Orgeron. I don't. When was he there? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, no, this is Kalen DeBoer. If Alabama loses this game, we've already seen how irritated the good folks of Alabama were because they lost a game to Vanderbilt. And, you know, Tony, they could lose this game. I don't know what the line is, nor do I care much. But I just think there's much more pressure on DeBoer in this particular circumstance.
We're going to have honest disagreement here because my first instinct is to say that it would affect Brian Kelly more. And I understand that DeBoer, he's in his first year, all right? And everybody wants you to win immediately at Alabama. And he might have the biggest win of the year when he beat Georgia. Then, as you say, he lost to Vanderbilt. He also lost to Tennessee. Still, I think that even the most rabid Alabama fan would understand that replacing Nick Saban is really like climbing a mountain.
He should.
And that when you go into the SEC for the first time, you've never been in a conference like that, that replicating Nick Saban is really a hard task. On the other hand, with Kelly's now in his third season at LSU. The honeymoon period is over at LSU. He specifically went to LSU to win a national championship, and he said so. He pushed all of his chips to the middle of the table. He even came up with that absurd Southern accent overnight, and DeBoer didn't do anything like that. And he's not following, as you point out correctly, he's not following a legend, because LSU churns up its coaches. They fired Orgeron. They fired Les Miles. Those guys won national championships. Kelly's never made the playoffs, I don't believe. His record is 26-9, which would be glittering in most places, but it's not glittering in LSU. So I honestly think it's going to be harder for him if they lose.
Tony,
that's my whole point.
I mean, the expectations out of Alabama, you gave voice to something that's rational. There's nothing rational about college football fans. Not any of them. I'll say any of us. And then no college football fans are rational. And they have these outsized expectations.
Here's really good news. The rumor is that a live tiger is going to be inside the stadium for the first time since 2015, a live tiger. I wonder if our pal James Carville will get in the cage with him. Let's take a break. Coming up, what chance do Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss have of upsetting Georgia tomorrow?
Speaking of irrational, and could Lionel Messi and Inter Miami actually get bounced from the MLS playoffs tomorrow? That'd be fun.
So you think they're down on DeBoer already?
Yes.
Replacing Saban?
Yes, because they're crazy.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by...
It's time to become adversaries in vocabularies. What's first?
Number 16, Ole Miss's chances of upsetting number 3, Georgia tomorrow are blank.
My word is reasonable. This is not a puncher's chance. This is not a long shot. This game is at home for Ole Miss in Oxford. It's a 7-2 team playing against a 7-1 team. I mean, I understand that Georgia was spectacular when they were national champions, but they've lost to Alabama this year, Mike. They were close with Kentucky. They were pretty close with Florida. I think I'm not mistaken here that Carson Beck has thrown interceptions in maybe the last 5 games.
I think he's got 10.
Here's Ole Miss. You know, Lane Kiffin has pointed to this game all year. Ole Miss has lost twice, but only by a total, I think, of 6 points. He's 0-5, Lane Kiffin, against Georgia and Alabama. But there are a lot of guys in the SEC that are over with those two teams. I just think that this team was built for this game. So to me, I'm not saying they're going to win.
Yeah.
But if they do win, I won't be shocked.
Well, the chances, I'm going to go even further, a little bit further, say the chances are considerable, Tony, and they should be for all the reasons that you outlined. They're playing at home. And by the way, it's not just Georgia. There's no omnipotent team in college football this year. I don't even think Oregon is that. And they're not going to have much of a test this week against Maryland. But I think there's a lot of good teams, and Georgia's one of those teams. But so is Mississippi. And playing at home, since Lane Kiffin has given us a lot of promise, but no delivery, it's time to deliver, and his chances are considerable tomorrow. So get it done.
That's fair.
Get it done.
That's fair. What's next?
It would be blank if Lionel Messi and Inter Miami got the boot from the MLS playoffs tomorrow.
It would be deflating. It would be like the air rushing out of a balloon and the balloon acting crazily. I mean, you know, this is Lionel Messi is the biggest draw in the MLS. He and Inter Miami are the number 1 seed in the playoffs in the MLS. Him in that pink jersey has come to symbolize the MLS. If I'm not mistaken here, in 20 games or 19 games, he has 20 goals and 16 assists. And the fact that they're 1-1 right now in a best-of-3 playoff with Atlanta, you go, what? What are you doing? The game 3, I think, is tomorrow night in Miami. If they lose that game, you can just wrap up the MLS playoffs. Nobody's going to care to watch them. There'd be no reason to go to Miami except to see Le Batard.
I don't have any reason to go to Miami anyway. And you're totally wrong because you list all these great things about the team and particularly Messi, all of which are true, all of which are undeniable. And if you do that, it's invigorating. Everybody who plays in that league has to think, wait a minute, if the number 9 seed can take the great one out, the GOAT, if they can get rid of him, we all got a chance. It's open to everyone. It ought to invigorate the league and the people who follow the league, though not you and a person who only cares about the one star that you want to watch in the league. Invigorating to the league and the soccer community to get rid of Lionel Messi. Get him out.
And it will shrink the audience. And that's what they're about as an audience.
I'll watch.
And you can see it with two of your friends. It's fine. That's the final word. Let's take one last break. Still to come. The Niners appear to be regaining strength.
And will the Warriors become the first team to knock off the Cavs this season? That's a ball night.
You want Messi out? You want him out of the playoffs in the first round?
Yeah, get out.
What?
He needs to rest.
No.
He needs to. He's old. He needs to rest.
Do you want Curry and LeBron out in the first round? Want them out?
No.
Really?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't want them out.
What's the difference?
Wow.
Everybody knows Bill Russell was the center of the great Boston Celtics teams that won 11 championships in 13 years between 1957 and 1969. Sanders was a forward on 8 of those championship teams. He was a great defender who scored about 10 points a game and grabbed 6 rebounds. After his playing days, Sanders went into coaching. He coached Harvard for 4 seasons before returning to the Celtics as an assistant to his old teammate Tommy Heinsohn. Sanders ultimately replaced Heinsohn during the 1977-78 season, and the next season he gave way to another Celtic, Dave Cowens, because in those days, the Celtics always kept it in-house.
And after the playing days or the coaching days, he went into the restaurant business because he had a restaurant in the South End called Satch's. And I know because I went there, particularly the first time I ever went to Boston, was to cover Patrick Ewing's announcement about where he was going to college. And everybody in that restaurant thought he was staying home. And he said Georgetown, and there was a shriek of just like bewilderment. That was at Satch's restaurant. Met him there. Something I'll obviously never forget, Tony.
Happy anniversary, Tom Dempsey. On this day 54 years ago, the Saints kicker set the NFL record by kicking a 63-yard field goal in the 1917 win over Detroit. This was an astounding distance at that time, when 50 yards out was considered a real long boot. Over the years, 5 players tied Dempsey at 63. That record was broken in 2013 when Matt Prater went 64 yards. In 2021, Justin Tucker went 66 yards in a game winner over Detroit. Kicks of 55-plus yards are now routine in the NFL. This year, there have already been 4 field goals of 60 or more. Buffalo's Tyler Bass hit from 61 last Sunday. New England's Joey Sly went 63. And Brandon Aubrey of Dallas has been good from 60 and 65.
The Dempsey kick, though, Tony, you know, it was such a big deal. I mean, first of all, it was controversial due to the perhaps necessary shape of the shoe. If you notice the goal posts, they were 10 yards closer then. They weren't at the back of the end zone. They were at the front of the end zone. Wow, 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 wow. Seems like it was 100 years ago because it was nearly that.
Happy trails to the Bucks' 6-game losing streak. Damian Lillard had 34, and Giannis added 31 and 16 boards as Milwaukee beat the Utah Jazz last night. Said Lillard after the game, quote, "I think we needed it bad, desperately," unquote. Of course, Milwaukee was at home, and Utah's the worst team in the league by record and point differential. The now 2-6 Bucks will get truer tests tonight against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden and Sunday at home against the Celtics. Doc Rivers vowed earlier this week that the Bucks will make the playoffs. We'll see, won't we? We'll see.
Well, Tony, they certainly have some pressure on them, but they have time. And they have 2 great players in Giannis and Dame. They need Chris Middleton back. They need him back. But they got great players. They got some time.
Well, yeah, because there's 82 games. We'll see how it works out. Let's go to the big finish. Niners coach Kyle Shanahan says he expects Christian McCaffrey to make his season debut this Sunday against the Bucs. Is that significant?
Yeah, but they're at Tampa, and Tampa's pretty good and coming off a stinging loss and needs to win too. The Winnipeg Jets shut out the Avalanche, moved to 13-1 as predicted here. You're impressed, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 13-1, a record of 13-1 in any sport. Come on, that's really good. The Yankees will bring back Aaron Boone next season. Are you at all surprised by that?
Refresh my memory. The Yankees were just in something called the World Series, weren't they? No. Men's college hoops tonight. Number 9, North Carolina at number 1, Kansas. Smell an upset?
You know, it's hard for me to believe that if North Carolina beats Kansas on any level, that's really an upset, given the history of both those schools.
Right.
But I'll take the home school tonight.
Okay.
I will. Last one, Warriors at Cavs tonight. Will the Cavs finally lose?
Tony, it's certainly possible the way Golden State is playing, but they're totally aware in Cleveland of what happened in Boston the other night when the Dubs went in there and for one night shut down the Celtics. So Cleveland has a lot of pride right now going on there about this team and its start. I think they'll win again.
I think if Golden State had lost the other night, it might be different tonight, but you're right about that. We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Have a great weekend, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcasts. And now, your sports.
Have you ever watched us lately? We look like Muppets.
We do.